I'm going to make a comparison between 3 snare drums. They're all 14-inch snare drums, but other than that, they're all very different. But the only way we can actually make a fair comparison is to make sure that they're all tuned identically before we start. So it's really important. If they're all tuned to different frequencies, then there's no way I can judge whether one's got certain characteristics or certain qualities than the others. So I can only do this comparison if they're completely and identically in tune, and that applies to comparing any instrument. Like, you wouldn't compare 2 guitars to decide which one to buy with them not both being in tune. The first thing to do is to put them on a very equal playing field and then make your comparison and your judgment. And that's not to say any of these drums are better than the others, but they are all different. So what have I got here? In the middle here, I've got a Broize custom solid oak snare, 6.5-inch deep with a Remo black dot drum head. On the right here, I've got a fairly standard Tama Superstar 6-ply Birch snare, 5.5 inches deep with a Remo pinstripe head on it. And on the left here, I've got a Ludwig Supralite, which is a steel drum, again 6.5 inches, and that's got a standard Ludwig snare head on it. So what I've done is I've tuned these all to very similar frequencies and overtones, so we can make a judgment on how they sound and what the differences between them are. So let's just double check the tuning of them all. So starting with the Tama on the right. Okay, that's got a center frequency of 177.5 and an edge frequency of 267, which gives a resonant tuning factor of 1.5. Let's just hear that with the snare on. Okay. So coming over to the Broize, just move my microphone to take the same again. Okay, that's got a frequency of 178 Hertz and an edge frequency of 265, so that's got a resonant tuning factor of 1.49. And let's just hear that with the snare on. Okay, and just coming over to the Ludwig. Okay, this one's got a center frequency of 177 Hertz and an edge frequency of 268, so that's got a resonant tuning factor of 1.51. So within half a hertz, 1 hertz, and within 0.1 on the resonant tuning factor, these are all tuned identically. So that's great. That's a great start. We can now actually make a comparison between them. So I didn't actually play the Ludwig with the snare on. Let's just turn that on. So now we have the snares. We know. Just put that away. Now we know the snares are identically tuned. We can start to compare between them. So if I just put the microphone over there so I capture a bit of everything. So here's the Broize. Okay, so snare wise. They all sound pretty similar, yeah? Okay, so the differences are, let's have a listen to the Broize. Broize has got a good solid tone. You hear a little bit of overtone, but all in all very well balanced. Get a bit of warmth, I think. Let's just bring that closer again. Broize. Okay, so back to the Tama. Feel like the overtone lasts a bit longer. That's got a sort of a less controlled overtone, which might want damping a little bit. I think the Broize doesn't have any issues with that. And over to the Ludwig. Again, they all sound fairly similar now because they're all tuned identically. Again, the Ludwig does have that just slightly high frequency metallic flavour, which gives it that just a subtle difference. But on the whole, they all sound pretty similar, and they all sound good, so we're happy with that. Okay, to continue the comparison, I've now tuned all these three drums up a notch to a higher frequency, but again tuned them all identically so we can continue to compare the sound. Like I said earlier, unless they're all tuned identically both on the fundamental and the overtone, we can't really compare them. So these are all tuned very similar, and so again we can make a judgment on how they sound similar and what sounds different between them. So again, just to check and measure, so this drum, the Tama, has a center frequency of 198 and an edge frequency of 300, so that gives us a tuning factor of 1.52. Let's just listen to it with the snare on. Okay, onto the Broize. So this one has a center frequency of 197 and an edge frequency of 297.5, so that's got a resonant tuning factor of 1.51, so that's pretty similar. Let's hear that with the snare on. Okay, and over to the Ludwig. So this has a center frequency of 198 and an edge frequency of 295.5, so that's got an RTF value of 1.49, bit lower but still very, very close, so very similar. Let's have a listen to that with the snare on. Okay, so now we've got three drums all tuned identically. Let's first listen to them without snares on. So sound a little bit different actually like that, because some of them have got stronger center frequencies and some of them have got stronger overtones I can hear. Let's put the snares on. With the snares on, they all sound pretty similar, so again we get those kind of slight different qualities. Ooh, there goes my phone. But we get the Ludwig has a really sharp attack, and it has that slightly metallic kind of quality, obviously, on the overtone, that ring, but it's still not overpowering in terms of the ring. It's a nice sort of shine to the sound. The Broize has got just that little bit of warmth, I suppose, but it's a full sound. It's got everything from depth to the high tone, the high overtone frequency, and the Birch Tama drum has got all the attack and all the kind of detail of the other two, but to me it seems to have just a little bit of sort of metallic ring that just rings on for a little bit longer. And that may work with some styles and others, but at the end of the day, they all sound very good, very playable. It just goes to show that with some sensible, simple tuning, you can pretty much make any well-designed drum sound good and to get a good tone out of it, as long as it's well made, well constructed, and it's got decent heads on it, and you know what you're doing in terms of setting the pitch, ensuring the lugs are tuned properly, and just checking with the resonant tuning factor. As long as you're doing that, then it's very possible to make any half decent snare sound great.